And we're back again. So I got a subscriber that requested a video. He has requested a video before, and he requested one again. I'm kind of a sucker for people that ask about requests and stuff. So yeah, I'll do it. I don't care. I mean, anything that will help, right? That's the way I look at it. If somebody gets any kind of value out of this channel or I can help out in any way, I'm more than obliged to do it. Here's some stuff I want you to think about first. Okay, this subscriber's question was, what do I look for in a truck and how to go about buying a truck? My expert opinion, if you want to call it that, is don't get the cart in front of the horse. There's so much you have to think about before you just go shopping for a truck. Don't do it like I did. The first time that I was wanting to be an owner operator, I was green as green could be. This was back in '07. And I just went up and said, "Hey, how do I become an owner operator?" There was a local trucking company, no longer there. They're out of business, shut down. But I went up to the owner and I said, "Hey, how do I do this? I want to, so how do I do it?" "Well, first you have to buy a truck. And do you have one?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Do you have the ability to go buy one?" And I said, "Think so." So I went that day, that afternoon, went to Memphis, Tennessee, bought me a truck, come back, and I said, "Now what? I've got me a truck. Let's go." Don't do it that way, folks. Don't do it that way. No, 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 no. Educate yourself. Educate yourself. Learn as much as you can about it. As much as you possibly can. Don't just take my opinion and my advice. Like I said, go listen to the Living Freed. Go listen to other guys. You know, I'm not the only YouTuber that talks about trucks and owner operators. I appreciate you asking me the question. It's very humbling that you asked me the question. But I'm not the only person you can get information from. And I'm not the only person you should get information from. So, with that being said, the first thing I want to say is don't do it alone. If you're a single guy or girl, doesn't matter, woman, if you are a single person, not married, no kids, um, your nearest relative is 500 miles away, you're not really friends with your neighbors, I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. I'm just being honest. I wouldn't. The very first thing you have to think about is if you go buy a truck, how are you going to get there to get the truck? And how are you going to get the truck home? That in itself is going to take at least two people. Unless you take an Uber, unless you fly in, like Ohio Truck Sales. And I don't know anything about those guys, and I'm not knocking them or anything, but I've read their advertisements before, and they say fly in and drive home. Well, what if you fly in and they don't have the truck you want? Then you're going to have to fly back. Or what if you fly in and you get a truck and you like it, and on the way home it takes crap on you? You know, I'm not saying this in a negative way. I just want you to think. That's it. Because I was dumb when I did it. I was dumb. And I didn't know anything about anything. I got a ride to Memphis. I got the truck. I got it back. And the very first trip out, the truck quit on me. I didn't even know what to do about that. So these are the things that you need to think about, right? Another big thing a lot of people forget is where are you going to park it? Like with me, um, The house that I used to live in, I've got a different house now, but the house I used to live in, I used to park it in my driveway. Codes came in and said, you can't do it anymore. You can't park a commercial truck here. And I said, why not? I always have. And they said, well, you can't anymore. We passed a city ordinance where you can't park it here anymore. That came out of the blue. And I didn't know what to do. I started parking it at a local retail store. And then they came and told me that I couldn't park it there. And I didn't want to leave my personal vehicle at a truck stop, like you see a lot of these guys do. They'll park their personal vehicle in a parking spot, then they'll come in with their big truck, switch out, and go home. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to leave my personal vehicle there. What if it got hit or damaged or something? So what I ended up doing was I rented a storage building. And I didn't even really want the storage building. I wanted the parking spot because there was a parking spot beside of the storage building where I could get the whole truck and trailer in. And at first the guy was like, no, I'm not having a big truck in here. And I guess I sweet talked him or something. I don't know. And I convinced him it will be okay. I won't cause you any trouble. I'll help you out around here if you need some help. He was an older gentleman. And he and I became somewhat of an acquaintance, maybe a little bit of friendliness going on there. And, it got to the point where he was like, I'm really glad you did come here because you're always on time with your rent. You don't destroy stuff. You're not causing problems. And I really worry about that with renters. So that's something else you have to think about. What happens if you're home and you're under a load and you can't get your truck started? It's happened to me, I don't know how many times. I don't know how many times it has happened to me. Come in for a weekend, drop the truck off, go home, get some rest, go back to get in the truck to take off, hit the key, and nothing. And I was like, now what? So it's either take a trip to the store, whatever, the Kenworth, the International store, whatever. Try to find you some parts, try to diagnose your truck. That's another thing. Where are you located at? Are there availability parts in your area? Now, a lot of times you can get stuff online, but if you're in that situation where you're just stopped and you need to get the truck going, you need to get parts now. Parts are going through the roof, especially readily available parts like that. A long time ago, I could buy a starter for one of my trucks for $50, $75, a rebuilt starter. There was a rebuilt starter place right down the road from my house, and I'd go in there. I would take my old one to him. He would give me one off the shelf he rebuilt, and we would just switch them out, $50, $75. Now that same starter, if you go buy it at Kenworth, $400, $500. I mean, there's some cheaper alternatives. My truck used a 39 MT. All of the trucks I had, I think of all the ones I replaced the starter on, they all used a 39 MT. And it's a pretty standard starter. But what if you can't get one? And that's just one thing. I mean, there's a lot of different things to think about with that situation. If you're out in the desert in Nevada somewhere. You live out there. You better know how to work on your truck. You better have spare parts. You know, wouldn't hurt to have a complete spare truck. If you're talking about older trucks, now I'm going to get to the newer trucks a little later in this video. What about leasing it on? Okay. Trucking companies, a lot of trucking companies are going to this thing where they don't want to lease on older trucks. They just don't want to. You can call and call and call and call, and they're like, we don't lease trucks that old, but we'll take a look at it, but, really needs to be in good shape. They don't want to. You're running into that a lot more. Another thing is insurance companies don't want to insure older trucks. They're just like, I know one out of Florida, they have completely quit putting bobtail insurance on a truck that is a 2000 year model or older. They don't want to put bobtail insurance on them. So there you go. I mean, that's something else you have to think about. And if you're looking for a truck with a cat engine, I would say don't be scared of a twin turbo as long as it is an '07 back. '08, '09, and 10, when Cat quit making engines, don't touch them. Don't touch them. And that's coming from someone that really likes Cat engines. An '08, an '09, and a 2010 Cat engines are yellow boat anchors. Leave them alone. If you can even find one for sale, leave it alone. I'm sorry if I make commenters mad. I'm sorry if I make viewers mad about that. That's just the way I see it. A 2008, 9, and 10 is when they went crazy with the emissions on the Cats. They finally threw their hands up and said, we're done. We're bailing out. We're over it. Now, 2007, from what I've heard, I've never owned one, but from what I've heard, it's one of the best engines that was ever made. Wonderful engine. Don't know. I personally, this personal opinion here, I personally think a 3406 E model Cat engine can't be beat. Now, fuel mileage, yes, they probably can be beat. But durability and rock solid, I mean, you're talking, you can run that truck 24 hours a day as hard as you want to run it, as long as it's a good engine. That thing is a beast, and it just will keep going and going and going and going. They did have a little problem with the crankshaft breaking in them, but as long as you maintain it and take care of it, I think you're good. There you go. I'm not a Cummins person. Don't really have any comments on Cummins. You're kind of on your own with a Cummins engine. Don't know anything about them. I really don't. I couldn't tell you a good one from a bad one. I just don't know. Detroit's, if you're talking to old trucks, anything that was pre 14 liter, 12.7s were some of the greatest engines ever built. If I was talking about an older truck, I would either get a Cat first. Myself, I would either get a Cat. A Detroit 12.7 would be very, very close second. Very close second. In fact, I've always wanted a truck with a Detroit engine. When I was looking to buy one, I couldn't find one. When I'm not looking to buy one, it seems like they're everywhere. So that was kind of the reason why I just didn't buy one. And I think a 12.7 is a wonderful engine. 14 liters had a lot of issues. They're still good engines, but they had a lot more maintenance and problems and stuff with those. But they're still good engines as long as you take care of them. Now, getting into buying the actual buying of the truck. What I would suggest is do it like you're doing a pre-trip. Do it like you're doing a pre-trip, like you are doing the most intense pre-trip you have ever done. Walk up, look at the outside condition, look at the paint, look at the glass, look for any missing parts, look for any broken parts, any cracks, whatever. And don't it not, we haven't even lifted the hood yet. I mean, we're just doing a walk around of the truck. Look at the tires, bend your head over, check the brakes, look at the fifth wheel, see if it, looks off or whatever. Feel there's something that, looks bad on the frame rails or anything. A lot of trucks will have a lot of rust. It throws them off because you can't tell the surface rust from the deep pitted rust. If it's deep pitted rust, that's what it will be. You can see little holes, in the frame. My T600 that I have now is weird because the passenger side is really, really rusted on the frame rail. The driver's side looks in really good condition. I don't know why. It stumped me ever since I've had that truck. It's really stumped me why one side, and it's not just a frame rail. It's like everything on the right side is really rusted, and everything on the driver's side looks good. I don't know. I don't know, but I went ahead and bought the truck anyway, and didn't bother me. It might bother you. So rust is a big thing to look for. Look for cracks in the frame rail for sure. That's gonna really mess you up to have a crack in a frame rail. Look for leaks. Don't be afraid if you're out shopping for a truck. Don't be afraid to get on your back and get underneath the truck and take a flashlight with you. Very, very key thing to take a flashlight with you and just shining up underneath the truck. Look on the ground and see if there's a puddle or some type of leak. Get under there and look. Get under the rear ends and actually feel the bottom of the rear ends. Because what these shops do, the dealerships, they go in and just power wash the crap out of it. I mean, they just power wash it till almost the paint's coming off. And then they go in and buff the paint out to make it look really good. And then they go in, well, I guess before they buff it and everything, they go in and they just spray the crap out of the frame rails with some kind of cheap black paint that's really thick, and they try to cover everything up. And then they, buff it out and try to make it look good. If you can, look at the truck before it goes into the detail shop. Look at, how dirty the inside of it is. If it's a really clean truck before they detail it, then, that's a good thing. So, condition is a big thing, especially with used trucks like that. One thing I would strongly suggest, if you have the money and have the reserve, look at new trucks. I know that's not available for everybody. It's not a big on everybody's list to go immediately shop for new trucks. Some people it is. So if you can get a new truck, it's never been used, it's got a warranty on it, you will be the sole driver of the truck. I know an owner operator right now, I do, that bought a brand new 19 98 Freightliner Classic XL extended hood. And believe it or not, he is still driving that truck today. One owner truck. He's the only person that's ever drove that truck. True story. I don't know the guy. He's getting on up there. He's probably about to retire. If you want a good truck, that would be the truck to buy right there. Because he can tell you every single thing that's ever been done to that truck. Because he had it from the day it rolled off the showroom floor, which it wasn't on the showroom floor. It was just out in the parking lot. But he went and bought it. You know, he financed it back then. I think he said he paid right at $102,000 for it. And he's been running it all these years by himself. And if he's not retired, he's really close to it. I haven't stayed in touch with him, but that's something to think about. How long has the person owned the truck? How much knowledge do they have about it? It goes a long way. Does it have paperwork? Does it have any kind of maintenance paperwork whatsoever? I've got every maintenance paper on my truck that I own. Every single thing that I have done to that truck since the day I bought it. I've got everything. Even hoses and clamps and everything. Why did I keep it? Because you've got to have that to turn in on your taxes. And, you know, I just kept it. I kept it in a file folder and it's at the house, so I've got it. Don't plan on selling my truck right now, but if I did, somebody would have every bit of information on it if they wanted it. Now, some people will say that they don't want to give you information on a truck like that because they're afraid they'll get sued. I personally think that's a bunch of BS myself. Like, if I told you my truck had a new clutch in it, and here's the paperwork for a new clutch in it, and you drove down the road, supposedly the clutch goes out, and you broke down, you have to have it towed in, you could come back and sue me and say, well, Dave sold me a truck. He said it had a new clutch in it. Here's the paperwork. He lied, and I'm suing him. What if that really wasn't what was wrong with the truck? What if that mechanic was lying to you? That's a gray area. To me, it's worth the risk. I mean, it's worth the risk. If you want to be the person that is sue happy, then sue, I guess. But I look at it as if I was selling it to you as a truck driver, I'm a truck driver, and I had a clutch in it, and I knew that I just put a clutch in it, and I had the paperwork on it, I would say, here's the paperwork, I just put a new clutch in it. Does it have a warranty? No. You can take it or leave it. That's the way I would look at it. Other people don't. Now, once you do all of these inspections, you try to get as much information, you get all the paperwork you can. Knowledge, like I said, is power in all of this. I mean, if you're buying a 1,000,000-mile truck, I wouldn't be scared of buying a 1,000,000-mile truck. My Peterbilt 379 that I had, I bought it from a Freightliner dealer in Nashville, and he said it come out of a fleet. You know, it was an entire fleet of Peterbilt 379s that they sold. And he said, I don't care which one you pick out. By the time I got over there was like 5 left out of the fleet. And he said, just walk around and look at them. The ones we've got left, we've made our profit off of them, and we just want them gone. He was like, you know, they're $19,000. Honest truth. That's how much I paid for a 379 Pete from a dealership. $19,000. And I could pick out which one I wanted. And I found the one I wanted, and it looked like it had new paint. I got to looking at it a little closer. You could see little overspray marks here and there. So I assumed it had been repainted. I was, you know, very certain. After I got the truck home, I got this anonymous call. Um, don't know who the guy was, but he said, I am friends with the guys that owned your truck. And I said, how did you get my number? And he said, Freightliner gave it to me. And I said, why would they do that? And he said, because I know the guys up there too. And he said, I'm not trying to mess with you or sell you anything. I just wanted to tell you on a personal basis that engine has just been rebuilt. And I said, no kidding. And he was like, yes. I can even give you the guy's name and number that rebuilt it because he's a good friend of mine. And I said, hmm. So completely rebuilt. And he said, from the bottom up, everything in that engine's brand new. You got a heck of a deal on that truck. And I really think I did. I had a 3406E Cat in it. It had been repainted. Um, that was the only two good points about the truck. That was the only two good points because the rear ends was shot. The transmission, when you went down the road, would howl like crazy. The gear shift would just rattle back and forth because it was so loose. It was like sticking a bone in a bowl of soup trying to find a gear in that thing. He was just all over the place. I mean, that transmission was gone, and rear ends was gone, and power divider didn't even work on it. It was just, it was wore out. It was a good looking truck, but it was wore out. But I got it cheap, and it ran good, so there you go. And it depends on what you're wanting. Now, getting to these new DEF trucks, these new style DEF trucks, the only knowledge that I have, I've owned one and one only, and it really burnt me. It was a Volvo, I think a 15 model, 14, 15, or 16. I think a 15 is what it was. And I bought it because it was a lot newer truck. It came with a warranty. It was a good looking truck, had good tires on it, no check engine lights. Checked it out. I drove it. I really thought I got a good deal on the truck. And I was wanting something really long term that I would really stay in for a really long period of time. And that truck just, it was a maintenance nightmare. I mean, I don't mean to dog on Volvos that much, but that one was just, that particular truck was just an absolute maintenance nightmare. I would take it to the shop for the same thing over and over and over, and it was DEF system issues. And I had the complete DEF system replaced on it. The whole right side of the engine, the turbo, the VGT, which controls the turbo, the EGR valves, the EGR cooler, everything. I had the total thing rebuilt on it, and would go back out on the road and the check engine light would come back on. And it would start derating. And I would take it back to the shop and they would start at the bottom and start checking stuff and just start replacing. I mean, they were just throwing parts at it. It was like the parts cannon. Bam, 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 bam. And I was like, why are you doing this? Well, because it's what we have to do. And I was like, all of those parts can't be bad. I just replaced all of those parts. Well, sorry. It's the way we have to do it. And I found out something with that newer model Volvo like that. You couldn't just take it to some small shop. I broke down in Texas with it one time. It derated and broke down there. And I called the local guy and he told me over the phone, I don't have Volvo software. More than likely, I can't help you. but I'll come down there and see if I can. And I said, okay. And he plugged it in. He sent it into a manual regen. And it acted like it kicked on. And he said, yes, I got it going. And I looked down and I said, it's not doing it. Yes, it is. And I said, no, it's not doing it. Well, can you not hear it? And I said, the temperature is not coming up, because on that truck, when it went into regen, the temperature, the engine temperature would come up. The engine temperature was staying the same. All he was doing, that computer program, all it was doing was revving the RPMs up on the engine. That's it. It wasn't actually regenning. And he sat there for a minute, and he was like, well, it says it's done. I think it was like 45 minutes. And he said, it says it's done. We shut the truck off, started it right back up, check engine light popped back on. And I said, see, it's not, it wasn't doing anything. And I found a trick on that truck. All you had to do was pull the speedometer cable out of the transmission, and it would allow it to go on down the road, and it wouldn't derate. It would derate, but you could get on down the road with it. But that thing was such a maintenance nightmare that I sold that truck for like $15,000, and it had the big 80-inch sleeper on it. Really nice, beautiful truck, and I can't handle this. I mean, it's just running me dry. I can't handle it. Like I said at the beginning, this is going to sound like a lot of negatives because of all this stuff in my head. If you're the opposite and you buy a truck and you have no maintenance issues, like this truck here, 350,000 miles. I've had like two things worked on this truck, and it wasn't, you know, engine related or anything. It was interior. A couple of interior things didn't work on this, and that's it. I mean, the air works, the heat works. It's got an electric APU. It works. The only thing that I have found on this is sometimes it's a little glitchy. The check engine light will come on and it'll go back off. Stability control will come on and go off. It has a couple of things like that, but you just drive it and it just resets itself and keeps going. It's never failed to start. Gets decent fuel mileage. I don't have any trouble out of this, and it's a Freightliner. The Freightliner I drove before this was the same way. I know a lot of people don't like these new Cascadias. If I was going to buy a DEF truck, one of these newer DEF trucks, I would get a Cascadia. I mean, that's my opinion. That's what I would do. And if I was going to buy one, I would try to get one as low a mileage as possible. I would try to get one that has as much maintenance on it as I could possibly get. And try to get one with a extended warranty. That's something you need to think about too, is extended warranties are not all the same. That extended warranty out on my Volvo wasn't a good extended warranty for a Volvo. They didn't, that warranty company, what they told me was they didn't understand Volvos. They didn't understand what parts were needed on them. So a lot of the stuff wouldn't be paid for with the warranty on those. So shop around for your warranties and talk to other people. Educate yourself about a warranty if you're going to get one, and know which ones are good and which ones are bad. Now, I don't know. The one I had on that Volvo wasn't good, but I'm not saying that all extended warranties are not good. It's just like the truck. You need to shop around. You need to think about it. So, this video is getting a little long. What I would strongly suggest, if you've made it this far through the video, no matter if you're buying an old truck or a newer style used truck, I would look at miles, engine hours, if it's got any rebuild history on it, look at the overall condition. If you're buying a truck, like I put in the thumbnail, that is an old junk truck out in the weeds, you're going to be putting a ton of money into that truck. And you're probably going to put a ton more money into it until you get everything worked out. So why not get the newest truck with the lowest mileage that you can? I don't mean to sound so bad about this, but I would stay away from the newer Volvos. I would. I drove one of the newer Internationals, and I didn't like that truck at all. It rode rough, and I didn't like the way the top console here stuck out over the steering wheel. I didn't like that style. I didn't like the interior style on it. The APU worked good. It had the APU in the side box. It worked good. I didn't have any problem with it. Um, but overall, I just didn't like the truck. I wouldn't have bought an International. Now, a Freightliner, I know you probably don't like them because they're a dime a dozen truck and everybody's got one, especially a white one. But if you're just using it as a work truck, and you're just wanting work done and you're not wanting any frills, uh, I would say the DEF system on these are as good or better than any other DEF system until you get some miles on them. You get 700,000 miles on them, you're probably going to look at a lot of DEF system issues with it. But under that, I think you're good. That's just my honest opinion. I think you're good. Um, I don't have any trouble out of this truck. I don't. The other Freightliner I drove before this one had almost 600,000 miles on it. And I honestly think that truck was a better truck than what this truck is. And it had more miles. So there you go. I never had a check engine light, never had any complaints, uh, engine complaints, here on the dash. Never had any complaints from that thing whatsoever. You just started it, took off, and went. I mean, it never was glitchy or anything. It was a wonderful truck. I would love to have found that truck, when they got ready to sell it. If they sold it cheap, that would have been a great truck to own, personally speaking. And plus, it was a mid roof. That was kind of cool for a Cascadia to be mid roof. This one's a stand up, and I don't like a stand up truck that well. I like a mid roof truck myself. Um, so, therefore, in closing, that's what I would say. It helps to have a paid for truck, plus, it helps to have your cash reserve. Plus, it helps, when rates are up and fuel is down. When everything's smooth, everything's smooth. But when it gets rough in trucking, it gets rough. You know, hopefully this helped. Hopefully I didn't get too long in the video. I'm just trying to give you the best advice I could possibly give you. Am I a grumpy old truck driver? Probably. Am I too full of old memories and baggage? Maybe. Would I do it again? Probably. So I didn't learn. But anyway, there you go. Hopefully it helped. You guys be safe out there. Look out for one another. Take care of yourself. And we'll see you on the next one.